All right, hey everybody, welcome back to week 9 of Field Pass Podcast. We've already made it to kind of whatever we call the halfway point of the NFL season. I think that we're in a really interesting part of the season. It's been a really weird year. I feel like over the past couple of years, we're getting you never really know what to expect, and maybe it's just because I was younger growing up, but it seems like as I've gotten older, this league has continued to get wackier and wackier as the generations have changed and as the years have passed. But we have officially made it to week 9. We've seen the rise and fall of prospects. We've seen people pan out to be frauds. We've seen people to be out pan out to be sleepers. And here we are halfway through the season. And now is when we start to think about the playoffs and who are actual contenders. Who do we think can make a deep run? Who do you think is going to be a wild card and might be able to sneak in? And who do you think is going to be able to win the game that is, of course, the Super Bowl and who's going to be the Super Bowl championships of the 2024 season? Because we're asking these questions, Brady and I wanted to start off this week addressing who we think are the top 5 teams within the NFL at this point. We're going to start from 5 and go to 1 just because I think that 5 might be a little bit more interesting. Um, I think we might have a little bit of a disagreement as to where we put some of these teams, but I think that it's going to be an interesting dialogue nonetheless. So, Brandon, do you want to go ahead and give us the first team that you have slated as the fifth best team in the league right now?
The fifth best team, I don't think you have this at all. I have the Commanders here. I I I think they are playing very good football. Now, I don't think or really know if they're going to be able to hold this for a whole season, but they are playing really well right now. They have beat, I mean, they have two losses and it's to the Ravens and I don't remember the first one. But they just beat the Bears off the last second Hail Mary. They have a win over the Bengals. They have a impressive wins over the Cardinals and they beat the Giants and other teams. I just like the way this offense is looking. This reminds me a lot of this Texans team last year, and we saw how successful they were last year. And I think, like, I thought about the Eagles and the Ravens in this spot. There was a couple other teams, but they just didn't have the record that the Commanders did. So even though those teams probably have had harder schedules, pick the Commanders here.
Yeah, I actually don't hate the pick, and I think we'll talk about this a little bit further on when it comes to where I put these guys. But I actually have the Texans at number 5, a team that you mentioned. They're 6-2, and their losses have mostly been, I guess, like eh, when you think about the losses, you don't really hate the losses that you see. You're not really kind of questioning, oh, how did they lose that game? The only losses that they have are to the Vikings, and at this point, the Vikings had a were power basically decapitating every single team they played throughout the league, and then of course they lost to that last second Jordan Love drive in Lambeau, which was something that I think we both picked that, like, I don't think the Texans are going to be able to overcome this, but it looked like they did, and it kind of gets to the point where you kind of realize maybe some of the Lambeau magic had it like faded that the Packers were going to win this game. But I think the Texans are really solid, even with the loss of Stephon Diggs. After we heard that he lost his well, not he lost, he didn't like lose track of it or anything. He tore his ACL, which obviously stinks for the team. But I'm still incredibly I'm really confident in this offense, especially in Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Now we're hoping to get Nico Collins back soon. At this point, the receiving group is still like not necessarily the strongest, but I think that if we're able to get Nico Collins back, this team will be within punching distance of making a really deep playoff run. I also have been pleasantly surprised with how Joe Mixon has played. The Texans have been pretty unlucky when it comes to their running back picks recently. I think back when Davis Mills was starting, they had Rex Burkhead, and then they moved on to Dameon Pierce, who, at least in terms from a fantasy perspective, had a pretty good season. But they had to move away from him and eventually ended up picking Joe Mixon, who has continued to be pretty productive for them. I'm also incredibly impressed with their defense. They've been able to hang in some of these tough games. Now, I gave them praise earlier as to like maybe you kind of are asking the questions like you don't ask these questions as to like, well, how did they not how did they lose this game? But when it comes to like the defense, I am kind of concerned as to how they let up these many points. Like for example, they let the Colts score 27 points on them, but that was the crazy Anthony Richardson game. The Jaguars scored 20, and they're kind of close in these games, but it's not like they've had the easiest schedule in the world. I mean, I think some of the only teams that they've played that actually have a losing record at this point are let me say, I mean, it's the Patriots and I mean, I guess that's really it. All of these guys are hovering around 500 or are just below it. So I think that this is a team that is going to continue to be good, and I'm having him on my five.
Yeah. I agree with kind of agree with that because I have the Texans at 4. Um, I had really 6 teams into consideration. I did mention the Eagles and Ravens. They just didn't have the record, but my consideration was Commanders, Bills, and Texans. I really liked the Commanders. I liked the way they were playing, so I picked them. And then when it came to the Texans and Bills, we've already seen that game, and the Texans have that one. So I that is my 4. Um, I think this team's getting better. Joe Mixon, I mean, he did have that injury, but he's coming back from it. He's looking. I don't know what he was doing in like what we were doing down in Cincinnati to let him have these type of games. But I mean, they have a 2-point loss to the Packers on a game-winning field goal, which and then they have that big loss to the Vikings. So like the only game they've only looked bad in that Vikings game, but that you got to give credit to the Vikings as well. So they are playing
Yeah.
great football. 6-2, they could be if the Chiefs stumble up once. I mean, the Chiefs are going to need to stumble up at least twice. They could be in 1 seed contention. They really could be in 1 seed contention if they keep this going. Because I mean, they they do have the Lions on their schedule. They have the Chiefs and Ravens, so they will play the Chiefs. So that can be an interesting tiebreaker there. But yeah, I mean, look out for these Texans. I believe they will win their division, but they could be fighting for a 1 seed as well.
Yeah. I feel like that could potentially be an AFC championship matchup. I just think at this point, I feel like people have cooled on the Texans, but I think a lot of it, pardon me, I'm about to sneeze. A lot of it, a lot of it, sorry, comes down to people kind of just acquiescing to the fact that like CJ Stroud is really him and he is a he's like probably at this point like a top 6 or 7 quarterback in my opinion. Um I mean I'm just gonna say it off the top of my head. I don't know if I can think of that many, but like I think people have just come to terms with this is a really good team and of course you're kind of when you kind of take that for granted, you forget how good that they actually are. Um but I can see them beating anyone in the AFC. But I think that the Chiefs are probably their biggest
Yeah, I
uh,
mean,
uh,
you
yeah,
mentioned Diggs being out. I'm interested to see what Nico when he comes back and how he looks.
yeah,
That will be really the determining factor, I think, and how well they'll be able to contend.
yeah. All right, so my number 4 is actually the team that has beaten the Texans in that of the Packers. So I am really, really impressed with the Packers. I I'm a fan of what they have going on down there. I really enjoy the fact that the Packers are like one of the last gunslinging teams. I know that they had a really rough showing against the Jaguars recently, but I do kind of think that the Jaguars are maybe not figuring it out, but they're just not like a raging dumpster fire anymore necessarily. Like it if they were, I think we could expect I mean, I've talked about Doug Peterson being fired, I think when I did it by myself and I thought he would be gone. But they luckily got that win in London. But I really do think that this Packers team is something special. Um, I would like to see the receiving talent get a little bit more like just have like one guy who comes out of that. because I know that they're trying to get or at least Romeo Dobbs is really trying to get involved as much as possible. Jaden Reed seemed to be the guy, but he's kind of faded away. He only had 2 receptions in the game against the Jaguars, but I really like what they have in obviously Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is becoming a lot more efficient as a running back. He averaged 5 yards in this past game per carry. I really like Tucker Kraft. I think that he is a really, really decent talent for them, and I'm a big fan of the way Jordan Love plays, even though he throws more interceptions than we might like. I also am a huge fan of their defense. I think that they have like and Andy said it best. They have like a bend don't break attitude, and I think that even though it's like Jordan Love might put them in a position where he's going to throw maybe like a stupid interception that's going to cost him like good field position. I think that the defense is just good enough to uh to keep them in the game. And they do have a decently tough schedule going forward. I mean, they have the Lions on this upcoming game. They play the Bears, which of course is going to be a fierce rivalry. Then the Niners and I mean they get a break with the Dolphins. It didn't used to be that way. But I have the Packers here.
I'm honestly, I forgot about the Packers. They would not be in my top five, but I forgot that they're 6-2. I just feel like they haven't been dominant enough in their games. That's and they've been
Yeah,
dealing with
but
it.
they've won the games in such a crazy way. Like that's ultimately what's going to be the defining factor for them. Like the reason I'll just keep it like transparent here. I don't have the Bills here because I don't have the Bills in my top five just because I feel like their loss against the Ra like I know this is like maybe putting too much weight on one game like because they have blown a lot of people out. But the Ravens game, they got absolutely stomped. And I think what was exposed by this Cleveland game is where you have Jameis Winston, who is basically like a journeyman at this point, like being able to start his first game, be the AFC offensive player, and throw for I think it was like over 300 yards or something on this Ravens pass defense. I think it's pretty putrid. And the fact that Josh Allen wasn't able, or at least the Bills weren't able to rally and get something moving on them, I think is like really telling as to like maybe them potentially being like a candidate where if you strike them in the face early, they're not going to be able to respond. And I think that the Packers are able to respond and are able to dig their heels in and get the win. So although they might not be like dominant and they haven't necessarily won these games by a lot, I think that like they're winning games nonetheless, and I think that they're the candidates to you don't want to have them in a close game, but like I think that a lot of people are going to find themselves in that position, and that's why I think that they're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
So I have the Packers.
I mean, there's like there the fact that like our lists are different is that there are probably 7 to 8 teams that is like they have a shot at the Super Bowl. Now, there's
Yeah.
teams with greater chances, but like there's 7 or 8 this year. Last year, I'd say maybe five.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't as much as this year. I feel, but we're also very early in, so that's the difference. At three for me, I have the Vikings. Um, I think they're even though they've lost 2 straight, one of them is to the Detroit Lions, which I'll talk about them later, but and they did go against the Rams, who they're way better than the record. Puka and Cup were out for 4 weeks. They didn't have receivers, and then they looked great when they both came back. So I think that game won't be as bad down the stretch. I just think that Sam Darnold is being the game manager that he needs to be, and this defense is playing their lights out. We saw them shut down off other than these last 2 games, we've seen them be able to shut down teams. They beat the Texans 34-7. That was before Nico and Stephon Diggs got hurt. Um Joe Mixon was out and they were running with Cam Akers, but I mean they have been shutting people out. I'm trying to remember who else did they it was the 49ers. Yeah, I know the 49ers are 4-4, but like they shut them down as well, and that was a high tier offense last year, and Ayuk and Kittle was still there. So I get these teams that have injuries now. They weren't injured when they played the Vikings, and they shut them down. Brian Flores is is doing a great job. Sam Darnold is doing his thing. They're getting Jez involved. And Aaron Jones is picking up right where he left off last year. So, I mean, as long as, I mean, the key obviously is Sam Darnold here. Can he do this for a whole season? Because we've seen time and time again in his career, he has not. So, can Minnesota be the place?
Yeah, I think I have Vikings at my six. Uh, like I have them outside just because if you ask me who I think is going to be a threat later on, I think I might have the Vikings in there, but I think with the Vikings, it goes back to the point we made about the Packers. Like I think it remains to be seen whether or not they're going to be able to respond to like kind of this backsliding. Two losses in a row against you, like you said, like two decent. I mean, the Lions I think are incredible, but the Rams are. I mean, they probably shouldn't have been able to get a win on them, even with the players coming back. Like that's their first week back. Like the Vikings should have won that game,
Well, I mean,
and
and the game kind of got stolen with him with that missed face mask as well.
that did
So,
stink. Yeah, but and that's true. But like honestly, I'm still gonna say like probably shouldn't have been that close. Like they shouldn't have been a ref's call away from
I mean,
like that game.
the Lions also went to overtime with them with with the Rams.
Hmm.
So, like, they're playing close in these games.
Yeah, you're right. I think that the thing, especially when it comes down to Sam Darnold, is are they going to be able to respond in such a way that prevents the backsliding? Like they have a game coming up. I'm trying to remember who they are. They on it? They're not on a bye this week. They play the Colts this week, and I mean the Colts are still a tough team, man. They have like decent receiving talent. I don't I think Joe Flacco is clearly able to do a lot more than people expected him to. So I mean they are at home, so this should be a good get back game. But I don't think that they can sleepwalk into this by any means because if they lose this one, it gets really ugly. Um, because you don't want to you don't want your quarterback to lose his confidence, and you don't want the team chemistry to break down. But I don't think that it's outrageous to have them here.
Who's your number three?
See, I actually you might be impressed with me. I think I've shown some growth in this area. I actually have the Commanders here. I think that the Commanders are like top three at this point,
Oh, interesting.
exclusive exclusively because of Jaden Daniels and um I mean really that's it. I mean their running game is really good as well, and I think that this might be a bit of an overreaction to the game against the Bears, but to be able to do that, even though it was like kind of an underthrow, to like I don't see better quarterback play right now than like Jaden Daniels. I'm being serious. Like I think he might be the best like playing quarterback at this point. And even like and I'm including now I think Lamar and Josh Allen should probably still be like the front runners and everything, but I think that I maybe Josh Allen's playing better, but like so I'll probably give it to Josh Allen, but like I think that Jaden Daniels is just so special, and I'm probably using like rose-colored glasses here, but you have him ranked at five, so I think that they have something at least that they bring to the table. I think that also we talk so much smack on this defense, um, but hey man, they're able to keep themselves in these games, and I think that they're one of the teams that play up to the team that they're playing. I mean, they only allowed 20, sorry, they only allowed 30 points on them, and they were able to put up 23 on the Ravens, which I mean that's a one score game away, and I think that they probably could have won that game. I think that the Ravens at this point, no one kind of thought they were able to beat them, but I think that they're putting up points in such a way that no one's going to be able to catch them. And the defense doesn't even really have to be that good. Like it now when you get into the playoffs, that's a big problem. I think they're a really young team. I think Jane Daniels still has a lot to prove. Like I don't think that they'll make a deep playoff run. I'll say that right now. But I think when you're talking about the regular season, the best teams right now, I think that the Commanders are up there, and I think that they're probably the third best. Um, so that's all I have to say. I'm I mean, I could go into further detail. I think that I really like their rushing as well, but it's hard to deny the magic that they have.
Yeah, I think they could like we're comparing the Commanders to what the Texans were last year. I
Yeah.
think that's why we have them high, because we saw how good the Texans were in the regular season, and but we didn't expect them to do anything in the playoffs. Me and you, but our I think I picked the Texans to beat the Browns. Um, I I didn't think they would beat the Ravens though. I think everyone was like, okay, they've had their fun. They're gonna get smacked by the Ravens, and that's kind of what happened. So I think that's what is at fate for the Commanders. But they are young. Their defense is playing up to the competition, like you said. I've already talked about them. Brian Robinson Jr., he got shot. I think it was actually 2 years ago now. And now it feels like he's finally getting into that groove that everyone thought he was going to be going in. And like, cause it's not like he just got shot. He got shot in like, I'm pretty sure it was the leg. So that's going to mess you up. And he came back after like 6 games that season. But like, and then he had last year. And now we all thought Eckler would be a lot more involved, but it's Brian Robinson who is balling. So they have things right. I don't think they should be that high, but I don't disagree with it at the same time. If
Yeah,
that
I
makes
just
sense.
think that I just think where they are riding at this point, I don't think that there are three teams I would I think like and maybe I'm like not scoring this right because I think I would rather play the Chiefs than play the Commanders at this point. Like even with their defense, I like Patrick Mahomes is like he's playing all right, but I'm sure he's disappointed with the level at which he's playing. But like I would, there's moment. I firmly believe in momentum at this point. Like I. It's not that I was a momentum detractor, but I think that when it comes to the Commanders at this point, they are flying high, and it's going to take something really embarrassing to slow them down. And I think even a loss to the Bears would have like they would have been able to recover from that. But the fact that we were able to get a win out of that is so crazy. And I just think it speaks to kind of the magic that they have right now. But look, I think that they actually might be in a better position than the Texans were like this season because the Texans barely made it in.
Yeah.
It took the Jaguars like a generational choke job by the Jaguars to be able to get in for them. So I think that they're going to be able to get in on their own right. Like when it comes to their division they're in, I really do think that like I mean the Cowboys look like a stink. I don't I don't trust in the Eagles at all. Like I have zero trust in Sirianni to keep this ship afloat, and the Giants are basically gone. I thought Malik Neighbors would be enough to like to win them a couple games by himself, and I frankly he did. He won two of those games by himself. But I don't think anyone's catching them.
Yeah. All right. My number two team is the Chiefs. Um, I know they're undefeated, but it feels like almost every game that they've played, they've been one play away from losing. The Ravens with Isaiah Likely, Bengals with the pass interference. Um, I for some reason I'm blanking. The Chargers, that game they had to come back um from dude, I suck at remembering these games.
I can't remember. Did you say the You said the Ravens is the first one?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Ravens.
with the toe tap. Yeah.
Yeah, that literally I mean, we never don't know how that game. They beat the 49ers by 10. The Saints, it honestly felt like the Saints were in that game for a little bit too long. Because I mean,
I mean, the Raiders were in the game for a little bit too long in this
yeah,
most recent one.
and the Raiders they intercepted the ball and got at the 4 yard line and moved the ball literally 2 feet within 4 plays. Actually, I think they lost yardage on that drive. I, after that sack on fourth down. So that felt like they barely got by that game. Chargers they beat by 7. I get Rice got hurt, so that kind of been in the game plan, but that was an ugly game, 17-10. The Falcons, it was that pass interference call on Kyle Pitts that wasn't called. So like they've had these. don't get me wrong, they're winning these close games, and that matters. That will matter in the postseason with this team that they have this experience. But compared to the team I got at number one, they have been killing people this season. So, and their biggest win is 13 points, 26 to 13 to the Saints. 13 points is their biggest win, and they're 7 and 0. I feel like if you're 7 and 0, you're winning games by 15, 20 every week. But I mean, they have five one possession games, and
I
they
mean,
won them, so you
here's the
got to give
thing.
them credit.
Yeah, I just think that when it comes down to the games that you've actually played, I think that there are a lot of reasons as to why like you might consider them to be close. Like Ravens Chiefs, it's an AFC Conference Championship matchup. That game's going to be close regardless of what teams look like, in my opinion. Like they're both of them are going to play their asses off. Chiefs end up winning it on what is basically a centimeter, a centimeter. Then they play the Bengals. This Bengals team really is not the same from what they've been before, unfortunately. But the Bengals are going to play up to their expectations. They're playing the Chiefs. I think that when it comes to these matchups, or I guess like the history that the Chiefs have with these teams, I I just want to say as well, like both of these teams aren't as good as we thought they were going to be. But I don't th necessarily think that like when we think about the history that they have together, like it, I understand why it makes sense that to me it makes sense why these games are closer. It's because there's more at stake. They're still getting into rhythm. Travis Kelce is getting older. He takes a while to that dude's old now. He takes a while to get the engine running. But I do think you're right. This is something that is a bit of a blemish on their career. But I don't think any of these games have been like necessarily easy. Like other than maybe the Saints and the Raiders, which is where they're at right now, admittedly, like they've played some pretty decent teams. I mean, like this is all the teams that they played. The Ravens, the Bengals, the Falcons, the Chargers, who have the Jesse Minter defense looks really solid, and the Niners. And to me, that's like five out of their seven games. And I think that all of those people are like at least solid team. Like I don't know. I think that they haven't necessarily had an easy schedule, and although it has looked really close, I do think that this defense is probably the best one that we've seen in the Chiefs for the Chiefs in a really long time. And I think that that is what's keeping them in these games, and that's why they have a seven in their that's why they have a zero in their loss column is mainly that because Patrick Mahomes, like I said earlier, hasn't been playing up to standard, but I think that he'll eventually get there, and I think that like that's why I have him highly ranked.
Yeah. All right, what's your number two team?
The Lions. So yeah, I have the Lions at two. Um, they have looked absolutely dominant. They, like you said, they are the team. I when we talked about teams, I would not like to play, just because of the factors that they bring to the table and the height at which they are flying. I actually think that the Lions are the team that I would like to play the least if I was an NFL team, just because. They're I want to highlight two things, and that's the rushing attack specifically. It's they have like an embarrassment of riches in that of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. How did you manage to get both of these guys so productive and good? It's really unfair. They look like geniuses for taking Jahmyr Gibbs at this point, and I am really impressed with it. Goff is playing at a level we haven't seen before. I am a little bit upset that not well, I'm not a little bit upset. I'm really sad that Aiden Hutchinson had to get injured. That sucks for him. Um, and I really don't see very many differences between them and the Chiefs, other than the Lions are uh executing at a executing at a higher level at this point. The only reason why I don't have them higher than the Chiefs is they do have those two losses to or wait, sorry, not two losses, that one loss to the Buccaneers. And I think that that says something. I think that you are what your record says you are. And Um, I'll show my cards here. I have the Chiefs at number one. I think if these teams were to go uh up against each other, I do think that the Chiefs would win, mainly like I said because of that defense. And I think that once they really start get going again in the postseason, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to put all the doubts away because we've doubted him before. I have been a detractor for him. I've not wanted a dynasty to be something that the NFL had to see, or at least a Patrick Mahomes dynasty. And I think that I mean, unless the Lions like prove me wrong, or if the Chiefs have a bit of a spiral, I'll be willing to move them into that spot. But until the Chiefs lose a game, I can't put them at two.
Yeah. This is where I disagree. I think I have the Lions at one. Um they have been giving belt to ass to some of these teams, dog. They beat the Cowboys so bad that they ran a hook and ladder to Penei Sewell and then threw to the lineman in the end zone. No, like I have never seen that before in my life. They were doing the Titans, they blew out. They
Yeah, but
blew.
that's the Titans,
Yeah,
man.
that's what I was
Like
about to say.
that
It's the
that's
Titans. That's what they're supposed to do.
they can't stay on the field. Will Levis had oh no, it wasn't even Will Levis. It was Mason Rudolph. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, sorry, keep going.
yeah. The Seahawks they only beat by 13, but that game was not close. That game was over at halftime. Um, they did lose to the Buccaneers, but I believe if they play that game 10 times, the Lions win nine, and that's the one they lost. Um, and that was coaching errors, which has not happened since they beat the Rams, which I've talked about. I think that's a better win than people tell. And then they've beat my number three team, the Vikings. And the thing is, I think Jared Goff's playing better than Mahomes. Goff has
Yeah, he is.
they have more touchdowns than Goff has incompletions. Like I've never heard that stat
That
in
is
my
pretty
life.
insane. Yeah, that's
I've
pretty
never
crazy.
he like th they've played 7 games and he has less incompletions than touchdowns. That's just how well this offensive playing and this secondary is improved. They went out and got players, they drafted people. They replaced the people that they needed to replace. And this defense Hut, Hutch going down is a big hit to them because he was unblockable this year. No one was able to block him. And I hope he can get back to where he was. So I'm interested to see if they make moves. Dan Campbell hinted at it earlier this week, but we haven't seen anything. Um, but I think this is the best team in the league, even though they do have that one loss. And I didn't believe I'd ever say this in my life, but I have the Lions as the best team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna call them fraudulent because I know how good they are. They are very, very, very good. But when you look at these teams, like is I'm not gonna call them fraud, but like is a 7 point win over the Cardinals really that impressive? Is is a win over the Seahawks really that impressive? And I'm not gonna. I mean, a win against the Vikings is a win against the Vikings, so I'm not gonna take that away from them. So I think that it's not that they have a lot anything to prove. They are incredibly solid, and that's why I have them as my second ranked team. I think they're incredible, and I think that it would be a coin flip if they played the Chiefs right now as to who would win. Um, but I fundamentally I don't necessarily believe that they could like. I think I think postseason Chiefs and postseason Lions are on a completely different level. Like, not necessarily a completely different level, but I think that when it comes down to coaching as well, like you said, Dan Campbell isn't necessarily as experienced as Andy Reid when it comes to being in this like those intense environments. I, I'm gonna opt for the Chiefs. So, like, and you're completely right about Jared Goff, though. He's playing way better than Patrick Mahomes. I just think down the line that there's going to be some sort of course correction, and uh, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that these are the top two. I think you can pick them.
Yeah, I would say it's probably 50-50 with America right now.
Yeah.
I think people where we are in the country and think that the Lions are better, and then people out west probably think it's the Chiefs. I think it's just because I know there's a lot of Chiefs haters on this side of the country. So I think I'm definitely one of them, but that's not blocking my judgment here. I just think that the Lions, I'm really impressed with them. They got both coordinators back. This team's on a warpath, and if there was one team that I had to pick to win the Super Bowl today, I'd pick the Lions. I would not pick the Chiefs. I'd
Yeah.
pick the Lions.
You really don't think that they'll figure that out though? Like I think
Oh
that
no, I think they'll figure it out. I think the Lions will get better. I think I think the Lions are. If I had to pick one team right now, I think it will be Lions Chiefs Super Bowl. That's what I'm thinking right now. But I think the Lions
I
will
mean,
win.
yeah, I think that the Lions will be in the sorry, in the NFC Championship. I don't know who's going to be the other one.
That's
Like maybe,
pending any major injuries as well.
yeah,
Like if one of those happened, obviously mine would change, which I really hope does not happen.
yeah,
But I'm liking this team.
yeah, they're solid. All right, everybody, let's move on to the second portion of the podcast where we cover the schedule for Week 9 of the NFL season. We're gonna go ahead and start off with Thursday night football, in that of the Jets taking on the Texans in a game. Uh, between a franchise that used to be in the dump and is now like kind of bona fide studs, and a team who has always been junk and was hoping for some change, and they still stink. So I am going to go ahead, and I think that I don't even care about it being in New York. Like I'm gonna pick the Texans. It could be a fun game. Like who knows? Like there are questions about the receivers. Like I mean, I think that Collins being out is a big deal. I think Tank Dell is like good enough to be great during this game though. I think that maybe Rodgers uh gets some big throws off, and there's some faith maybe, or sorry, there's some faith that arises in Jets fans during this game. The as good as this Texans defense is, there are some question marks I have, especially when it comes to the health of their corners. Um, but I think that the Texans are just going to be able to do enough to put them away. They just have a really great defense, which is unfortunate because um, this team and the record doesn't isn't able to like show their dominance, or at least like give they don't they haven't given me enough like tape to talk about how good they are, at least this season. So I'm going to pick the Texans.
Yeah. If the Texans had Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins, this would be a no-brainer. But that they are out raises some questions. But I think the big thing with the Jets is that they don't have chemistry.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it. Devontae got thrown in there. They fired their coach. And they've lost ever since then. So it's like they're 0-3 with their interim, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they've won a game since they got Devontae, or they fired
Yeah, because they're
Salah.
0-2. They're 0-2 with Devontae, and they're 0-3 with their head coach.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's honestly these games have been close. These haven't been able to close them out.
Hmm.
They weren't able to close the Bills game out. I mean, they were down in that game, but they weren't able to do it against the Steelers. And then the Patriots, they let Jacoby Brissett have like a 70-yard drive in the final minutes of the game and weren't able to stop Jacoby Brissett led Patriots. And it's just like I don't even know if it's like necessarily like Rodgers too old or anything. I just think this team doesn't have chemistry and that they're not playing together well. And that's going to make me pick the Texans as well, even though they're injured as well. I just I'm not the Jets haven't shown me any reason why that they should win this game.
No, and what's weird is that Vegas has them actually as favorites for this game, but I think that's completely I
Yeah.
I you, like they have zero momentum. They have zero chemistry. They thought bringing Devontae in was going to work. It did not. I think you can't make any
Bringing
more
Devontae
moves.
Adams is not going to magically give you give you wins.
Well, I think the move made sense.
It
I
no,
think
it
that
did.
but like, but but like, it wasn't enough to fix whatever's going on over there in New York. I just think like a lot of people hated it. I think that the fact that you were able to get Devontae for that low of a pick was great, and I think you should have made the move, especially if you have a struggling Aaron Rodgers, or at least to connect with the receivers. But there are no more moves you can make. Like it's over. So unless there's some sort of course correction, like like without changing anything, they're cooked. Like they're already kind of cooked, but like it it's not fun if you're a Jets fan, and it has never been fun. But
Yeah.
unless you're like my dad's age or something. All right, let's move on to Saints versus Panthers, which like just gross. Like, do we? I Derek Carr is returning. Was he back? I can't remember. He did he play this
No,
yesterday?
it was Rattler and Jake
Yeah,
Herner for Fresno, and the Saints did bench Rattler. So if Derek
yeah,
Carr doesn't play, I think it'll be Jake Herner.
yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Saints in this one, even though Derek Carr's come back from injury. I think this actually might be a close game, just not a fun one to watch. Uh, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Saints on this one. I think Kamara is great. I think that I don't know why this team like I kind of had faith that Derek Carr was gonna be able to like those two games where they won, they look solid. I actually was having a lot of fun, but I think that these are two bottom of the barrel teams.
Yeah, I feel like the record could be different if Derek Carr was healthy. Like if they could eat, I don't know if they would beat the Broncos, but they definitely could have two wins instead of two losses with Derek Carr at quarterback. Um, we saw this game once. We saw what happened. Don't really know why it would change, so give me the Saints.
Yeah.
Com- Commanders Giants is next. This could be fun. It was this was a close game the first time they played. Now it's in New York. The only thing with the Giants is that Notre Dame currently has more touchdowns in their own stadium and they only played one game there. So give me the Commanders. I think we both said that the Commanders are at a top five team in the NFL right now, so I'm gonna stick with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Commanders. I thought that Malik Neighbors was enough to win some of these games. And if you asked me a couple weeks ago, I would have told you that Malik Neighbors is going to run over these corners and he's going to leave like jet streams in his past, or sorry, in his path. But it's not going to be enough. Daniel Jones is not getting him that ball. Um, Jaden Daniels is going to cook this defense.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick the Commanders. Dolphins Bills, which oh my gosh, dude, there are a lot of ugly games, at least here at the start. This is an ugly 1 o'clock. Um, Dolphins Bills could be a really gross game. Tua came back. I'm still not impressed. As of Tyreek Hill fantasy owning fantasy coach, I'm very disappointed. The Dolphins look like probably like a bottom five team in the league at this point. I think that this is where Josh Allen kind of shows that he's dominant, even though it's a defense that have been limiting when it comes to quarterback productivity. I'm going to go ahead and take the Bills in this one pretty handedly.
Yeah, this was the game that Tua got hurt in, but don't get me wrong, the game was over when he got hurt.
Yeah.
The Bills dominated this, and the Dolphins have not played well in Buffalo. But Tua back can have them compete in this game. So, like this game could be close, but I don't. I think the Bills are gonna win this one
Mhm.
handily. Chargers Browns next. It's not a bad game, but yeah, I definitely agree with you that this 1 o'clock is kind of a stinker because just looking down the line, we got Patriots Titans. No one's gonna have that on, and then we
You
have
should be
three.
paid if you watch that game.
Yeah, if you're going to that game, Robert Kraft should pay you.
Yeah.
Even though I believe it's in Tennessee, but if you're a Patriots fan making that trip, it's on the Patriots.
I think they're actually drafting up a class action lawsuit right now for anyone who has to watch that game.
Yeah, that's not. I mean the Patriots didn't win last week, but still, it's against the Jets. But let's talk about Chargers Browns. That's next up on our slate. Uh, Jameis looked good. He did. This offense looks competent again, but they're running into Jesse Minter, and he has coached his butt off this year. As a first year NFL DC, because he was at Michigan last year, he has really got this defense up and playing. I just think that because Jameis has in his career has made mistakes from time to time. We saw it with the Kyle Hamilton dropped interception where that should have been ball game, and then he comes back and makes a great throw. This is what happened in Tampa. We saw it a little bit in New Orleans and other places. So I I think I'm gonna pick the Chargers here just because of Jameis's inconsistencies, and I Jesse Minter can make him pay for that.
Yeah, I don't hate the pick. Um, my main reason why I'm going to disagree with you, and I think that the Browns are going to get a win in this game, um, comes down to really comes down to their offense. I think that the Browns defense is really going to be able to stop the Chargers. I don't think Jim Harbaugh, as good of a coach as he is really able to capitalize on just how good Justin Herbert is. And I really don't think he's going to be able to do that against the Browns. I think that he's going to try and settle in to the run like he is with J.K. Dobbins and I don't think that they're going to be able to move it very much. I think that the Browns off defensive line is just that good. I think it's way better than their cornerback room at this point. As a Browns fan, I've been super disappointed with Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson Jr. They have been getting burnt this entire season. Everyone other than Denzel Ward has been playing well, at least in the corner room, has not been playing very good. So if this was like a if Justin if if Jim Harbaugh was like uh Dane Johnson, um sorry, am I hold on 1 second. What's the offensive coordinator for the Lions? I can't he's
Ben
Blake
Johnson for the
Ben
Lions.
Johnson. Ben Johnson, sorry. Not Dane Johnson. Ben Johnson. I would be very concerned. I am not that it's not that I'm not concerned. I think this is going to be a really close game and this is a pretty formidable defense. Um, but I think that look to see Nick Chubb being a little bit more productive in this game. I think that they're going to have to rely on him a little bit more, and I think this is where we will finally be able to see Nick Chubb being like pretty reliable. It's not that he's been bad necessarily in this game, but I think this is where we're going to have to really rely on him, and I am anticipating that he shows up. So, um, I actually do have the Browns winning this game. It's at home, so I think that's going to help as well. I also think that this team has just been begging to play for somebody that can at least get the offense moving. So I'm going to pick the Browns. I have faith.
Yeah. I don't I don't blame you for having faith, but I just don't think it's gonna fall like that. But we just got done talking about the Patriots Titans. Um, the Patriots are gonna win this game. The Titans are the worst team in football. That's all I gotta say about that. Don't really want to spend more time talking about it.
I don't think they're the worst actually. I think the Panthers are the worst right now, but um, but they're one of the worst for sure. Um, whoever starts for the, I think it's probably still gonna be Mason Rudolph, right? Um,
Yeah, I don't
for the
know if Will Levis is gonna be back or not.
for the Titans, um, I think they're gonna have a real pain in the butt going against this Patriots defense. Hopefully, Drake May is able to come back. I think this will be a one. This will be a good game for him to get some reps in. Apparently, he was limited in practice, so we're not certain whether or not he's going to play. But I really hope that for the Patriots' sake, he plays. Just so they can see what they have in him. He actually had a rushing touchdown, which was really fun. So maybe we'll see more of that. But I'm gonna pick the Patriots. I think that what they have cooking right now is enough to win this game. It's gonna be really gross and not fun though.
Yeah. Um, who'd you pick the Patriots?
Yeah,
Okay. I thought I was about to say for some reason in my brain I thought you picked the Titans even though you just said it. But Cowboys Falcons is a good game. Um, even though the Cowboys have been, hit or miss, because I mean they had the bad loss to the Saints, they had the bad loss to the Lions. but like they beat the Steelers and they beat some other teams. Although I have been very impressed with the Falcons. Kirk Cousins is has been playing really well. It took him a week or two to get settled in, but ever since then, like they've had these two great games with the Buccaneers and they won both of them. And they've had other games like this. I'm actually gonna pick the Falcons at home to win this game. If this is on the road, I'd probably pick the Cowboys, but since it's in Atlanta, I'm gonna take the Falcons.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the Falcons. I like the way they're being able to spread it out. Sorry, not Buckeyes. This Cowboys defense has really regressed, and I think that it's going to be a problem going forward for them, and it's going to be a problem this weekend. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So next up is my Bengals play the Raiders. The Bengals they started off well last week and then Philly dominated that second half. Um, T. Higgins being out does matter, so I expect him to play this week, and I think the Bengals are better than the Raiders, but I expect Brock Bowers to have a big day against this Bengals secondary and linebackers. So look out for that, but I do think the Bengals will win, and this game will be close.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this game will probably be close as well. I mean, wouldn't be surprised if you guys were able to like uncork it at the end with a couple like Jamar Chase throws. That just seems that something that could happen. But I'm concerned for your offensive line. Um, just I don't know why you guys can't seem to get it right. Like it's something the Browns can't get the quarterback right, and the Bengals can't get the offensive line right. It just whatever moves they make, unfortunately, just never seems to pan out. Um, and I know I talked smack on the Raiders D line in times past, but they made us look awful. Man, they made us look like we stunk.
Yeah, I don't know who is
And
gonna block Max Crosby. I think
yeah, and
we're
that was without Max Crosby. So it's just gross, man.
yeah.
But I think you guys will come out with the win, which is fun. All right, Broncos versus Ravens. This might be like one of the best games of the week. I'm really really excited for this because I mean I'm kind of coming at this from a person who has both Javonte Williams uh and Cortland Sutton on my team in fantasy. I really was hoping that Javonte was able to put up a good game against the Panthers, and he just wasn't really able to. Um, I think the Ravens will win this game, but it's gonna be gross. Like it I think we'll be able to tell pretty immediately whether or not Deontay Johnson was a smart acquisition for them, especially against a great Broncos defense. I think this game will actually be really close, and I think Bo Nix will surprisingly be able to throw, and hopefully he keeps his connection with Cortland Sutton um, productive. But I do think the Ravens will gotta kind of like course correct and win this game, even though they have a sorry and sordid like uh pass protection. It's I wouldn't be surprised if they got the win in this one.
Yeah, you mentioned Javonte Williams and Sutton not really playing great, but Bo Nix has been balling
Yeah,
these last couple weeks. He's just probably the second best performing rookie. I'd say he's performing better than Caleb Williams right now.
yeah.
Um, this they have like flown under the radar of everyone. I think after their first couple games where Bo Nix did struggle getting, but now he's starting to find his groove. I don't think they win this game, but I think it's going to be closer than what people think.
Yeah.
But I do think the Ravens will win this game.
All right, moving on to the 4 o'clock slate, we have Bears versus Cardinals, and these are two teams that I think are like in the exact same spot. I think, or at least in terms of the way that I perceive them, I think they're exactly in the same spot. Um, and I think the Bears will win this one. Um, and the reason why I think they're going to win this one is because of the Bears secondary. I think that Kyler isn't going to be able to get Marvin Harrison Jr. as open as he wanted. He's not going to be able to And it's funny I'm talking about the secondary when they're the ones who blew the entire game last week. But I think that they're gonna lock the Arizona wide receivers down. And I don't think Kyler's gonna be as productive. I just think that Caleb and DeAndre Swift is gonna be able to I think they're gonna be able to score enough points where the Bears defense won't will be like they're gonna be on the field a lot. But I think that maybe I don't think the Cardinals score over like 21 points here. Um, so I'm gonna take the Bears.
Yeah. Um, yeah, the Bears, they had that game won last week. After struggling in that game, they found a way to take the lead. Um, but then they and they choked on the final play of the game. And the Cardinals are coming off back-to-back wins over the Dolphins and Chargers on game-winning field goals. Um, I think with this being at Arizona, I think they actually get the win. I think the Bears are gonna just still be think that Hail Mary play is gonna be in the back of their mind. And I think that's gonna affect them playing a little bit. But I think the Cardinals will win this game. I do think I'm gonna predict this is gonna be crazy. This happened a third game-winning field goal on the final play in a row for the Cardinals. That's my. I don't usually give specific predictions, but that's my prediction right there. I
That's
have a
funny.
feeling that's gonna happen.
All right, moving on to a game that I also don't like, Jags versus Eagles. Um, the Jags are so stupid. Like that, I just I think that this is gonna be a close game, unfortunately for the Eagles, but I think that they're not stupid. The Eagles aren't stupid. They're morons. But I would rather be a moron than stupid. And I'm going to pick the Eagles in this one because I just don't think that the Jags are able to put it together despite kind of rising to the occasion, I guess, and finding a bit of a groove. And when I say finding a bit of groove, they're still losing games. And the Eagles have been on a bit of a roll, so I'm going to pick the Eagles in this one. But I don't, I this you shouldn't be excited to watch this game if you're an Eagles fan.
Yeah, I think the Eagles will dominate the Jags. I saw what they did to the Bengals last week, and the Bengals started off really well. I think the Eagles will win this game convincingly. Christian Kirk is out for a while, so that doesn't help them. I don't think Gabe Davis has can catch a pass, so they do have Tank Bigsby who has been playing well with ETN out, so maybe they can be a 1-2 punch if ETN comes back. But I think the Eagles will win this game.
Yeah, I don't think that's enough. All right, we have successfully cleared all the bad games, and we have made it to NFL Nirvana for this week. Okay. These next three games are very, very, very good. Okay.
Next four.
Oh, shoot. Oh, sorry. No, we're still in hell. This game is not very good. I'm skipping this over this one. Rams versus Seahawks. I'm not a fan. I am not a fan of the Seahawks. I just I am I'm not impressed by anything that they're doing right now. They're like kind of completely flying under the radar in my opinion. Um, but I think your point, Braden, about this Rams team being a little bit better than maybe they're letting on is true. And uh, I think that the Seahawks are gonna fall to 4-5.
Yeah. This could get interesting. This could get an interesting game. I think it's definitely better than Jags Eagles and like Bears Cardinals is all right. But like this game I would put like in the middle tier of games this week. It's not bad, it's not good. It's just all right. Like I don't think this game's like awful, but I do think the Rams will win. I think Puka and Cup being back is going to help them a lot. And Kyron Williams is doing his thing, so give me the Rams.
Yeah, I think that that's fair. All right, now we're here. We finally made it. Lions versus Packers. What a great game. Inter-division, I mean rivalry at this point. Um, I think that this is going to be a lot of fun. Lions I obviously are our top one and two team respectively between the two of us, and I think that I had the Packers as number four. Um, I think if you're a member of any of these teams, or if you're just a fan of any of these teams, you should be excited. This is an opportunity for you to really like prove yourself as a team, and kind of stand up to some of the adversity. The one thing that I think that the Lions should be worried about is, I mean, there are a lot of things they're playing the Packers, which are solid, but one of the bigger things is that they're playing at Lambeau, which is always difficult. Um, and I actually think I'm going to pick the Packers in this one. I think that being at home, they're going to be, look, Braden,
I
I
I'm
get,
gonna
I
let
get
you.
it. I get it's your family team. I understand you have some attachment to them because they're in Michigan. They're playing in Lambeau Field in November.
Do you not remember what they did in Lambeau last year?
Yeah, but
They
like,
donkey dude on the
yes,
Packers in
but
Lambeau last year.
this is a different team. Okay, they've,
It's
I think that,
the
I
same
think they,
team.
no, I think they've got better rushing. I think that their receivers aren't as completely
I
no
mean,
names
Jordan. I don't even
anymore.
know if Jordan Love is gonna play.
Hold on, what?
He got injured last week.
Oh shoot, that's right. Let me make okay. No, he's starting. Okay.
Hey, he's
Yeah.
questionable.
No, it says Packers Lions Thursday injury report. This is from Green Bay. This is from Sports Illustrated. Jordan Love among returning starters.
I mean, he was a limited participant today, is
If it,
what.
okay, but he's gonna play. He's a if he's limited participant and he's starting on Thursday, he's gonna play.
Okay.
So Braden's
Uh,
other team that he's rooting for because is now a bandwagon team is gonna
okay, Brett.
going into Lambeau and is going to lose to Jordan Love. Jordan Love's probably gonna throw like two interceptions and it's gonna be ugly, but I think that this defense is good enough to bend not break against Jared Goff, who is all also might make some mistakes. I think this is gonna be a really good game. Shoot me. I think that they're playing in Lambeau. It's a hostile environment. The Lions, I get they're in Detroit, but they don't play outside. I'm going to pick the Packers in this one.
Yeah, I think this will be a close game too. I just have that much faith in the Lions. Now, you can say whatever you want. I'm this is not me because I like that my
Look,
family
it's
likes the
okay.
Lions or
Own
anything.
it. Own it. Your team sucks right now. My team sucks right now, and you've picked your dad's team to
I'm
root
not
for.
necessarily rooting for the Lions in this game. I think they're gonna win it. I think I am very impressed with what they're doing. How can you not be, dude? I mean,
I'm impressed. I'm
as
just
a
calling out
football
the fact
fan,
that there's some ulterior motives here.
I maybe, all right. But at the end of the day, I think this Lions team is really good
I
and
do. I think so too.
I th this game can be tough, but I don't think the Packers have the receivers to threat this Lions defense enough to win. I think they will shut down the run they have. They have shut down everybody in the run game. Um, and so Josh Jacobs, maybe he's different, but like, and Jaden Reed has been balling. I think that's the only person that can give him a threat. What what will need to happen is they will need to get Goff to turn the ball over. That is how
Yeah,
they will
I
win
think
this
they can do
game.
that.
But Goff has not done that this year. He
Right.
is not at all.
Right.
I mentioned that he has less incompletions and touchdowns. Um, I think this will be a back and forth game. I have the Lions winning by 3 in Lambeau. I think,
I think that's perfectly
but
reasonable.
if Jordan Love does not play, this game's going to be a blowout.
Obviously, that's a completely different question. If like
Yeah,
but he's gonna play.
yeah,
I think you don't you don't let someone else come into your stadium like that if you're a limited participant on Thursday. He's
yeah.
probably gonna be a full participant tomorrow. But um, let's see. I wanna take a look at the I want to take a look at the betting odds for this because I want to see what Vegas thinks.
I'd
So
imagine the Lions be a touchdown favorite. No,
so
they'll be 3.5
Lion,
maybe.
yeah, you kind of hit it right on. The Lions are 3-point favorites. That's
Yeah.
it. So I think this is a really, really fun game. And I will be watching.
Yeah, I
Um,
I agree. I think the Lions have that dog in them. I also I'm a big fan of Dan Campbell just because of how funny he is.
yeah, Dan Campbell is a lot more funny than
He has a
Matt
great
LaFleur.
personality. I like coaches that have great personality. LaFleur, he doesn't have much of
Yeah,
a personality. He's just a football genius. Okay.
yeah,
I respect him as a coach, but I tend to like more coaches like Dan Campbell, who's a good coach and is hilarious.
he is
That's
funny.
that's like that's my thing. Now, I think I think this is the best game of the week, so everyone's gonna have their eyes on it. Obviously, we have different opinions, and I imagine it's split 50-50. But on it, if the Lions do win this game, they will have firm control over the NFC North. They will have
Yeah.
a win over the Vikings and the Packers both on the road. That means that they'll have to go to Detroit later in the year when it like playoff implications and the division matters, and that's not what you want to do right now. Because Detroit has been ever since Detroit has been good, they've been a hostile environment.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, hostile environment is nothing like college or anything, but like there are tough places to play in the NFL, and I think Ford Field, if the Lions can continue to be good, can be one of those because these fans have all this energy that they haven't had. We'll see though. I think if the Lions win this game, they could have a firm hold on the NFC North, and it may be hard to get them out of that. So
Hmm.
that I think Vikings and Bears fans, and I think all the NFC other teams want the Lions to lose this game, so they other teams have a shot in the NFC. Because real, I think the Commanders have two losses. I don't know if anyone else has two losses in that division. So if the Commanders slip up, that means they have a two-game advantage over everyone. So this game is very pivotal for the Lions. They do have a tough schedule the rest of the way as well because they have the Vikings, the Packers one more time. They have the Bears twice. I don't know who else it is, but like those matchups alone are very tough. So the Lions need to get these wins off now so they can afford to lose later. So a lot more is on the line than it's just one win for this game. So that could get to the Lions and have them prepare. So how they prepare. But I've said, do you have anything else to add on this game?
No, I'm done.
All right. I think Sunday night with Colts Vikings. Um, I had the Vikings at number three because in my top five team because I think they are the number three team the first half of the regular season. I don't think they will be in this back half. I actually am going to pick the Colts here. I think J Joe Flacco will get them this win. This
So
will
you
be a
think they're
close
going to
game.
continue to slide? Like, how can they be good if they lose three in a row?
I mean, we saw the 49ers lost three in a row last year. They started 5-0
And
and went 5-3. They could bounce back. I base
the
my
Chiefs did kind of
rankings,
fall.
my top five rankings on I looked at the first 8 weeks, who were the top five teams in those 8 weeks. And the Vikings, they were in that top five. Even though they lost these last two, they were in the top five because they did have good wins. Actually, no, I've already changed my mind. The Vikings are going to win this game. I've already lied. The, I've changed my mind. The Vikings, I have the Vikings written down, and then I changed my mind to the Colts. I've changed my mind back to the Vikings. That's how. So I'm don't if you're betting, don't listen to me on this because I'm gonna probably flip flop another 5 times. I think the Vikings will win. This game will be close though. I think
Yeah.
Joe Flacco right now is the better option. AR, he has some things he needs to work out. I don't think they should fully give up on him yet. He is very young. He is very young. So, yeah, the Vikings will squeak this one out. Look out for Aaron Jones. He has been on the field a lot and he's starting to ramp it up. So look for him to have a great day. I know a bunch of fantasy people are calling everyone to start this guy. So Aaron Jones, watch out for him big week. I think the Vikings win a close one. This is a one possession game. That's why I keep flipping back and forth. I think this is going to be a very dramatic game late.
Yeah, I also think that it's going to be a really close game. I think that the Vikings are going to win this one at home. Um, I think this is a good like course correction game. Joe Flacco was great, and he's going to be able to air it out to Josh Downs, and that is a very scary combination. That's like
I think that's
2020.
his favorite receiver on that team.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
if you look at the numbers between the two, Josh Downs considerably gets a lot more of his t touches through Joe Flacco than through AR.
hmm Yeah, I think even more than Pittman at this point. Yeah, so I'm gonna pick the Vikings, but I'm completely with you. I think this game is gonna be really close.
Yeah. Primetime games are good this week. They
Yeah,
are
they're very solid. Yeah,
like because Monday night it's Bucks Chiefs. That's a great game.
yeah. Let's go ahead and
If
talk about that one.
okay, yeah, so I want to pick the Bucks here, but I'm not going to. Just out of me picking saying this game's going to be close. But the Chiefs have thrived in these close game situations. And other than the Lions game, the Bucks have not. They've lost two close ones to the Falcons. They lost the one in overtime in Atlanta. And honestly, that Pitts touchdown should not have counted last week. And the Bucks, without those points, they would have won. They got to move on. I think this game could also, the Chiefs could prove me wrong and Baker could struggle, but I think that the Bucks will come to play in this game with how the stage it's on at Arrowhead. But give me the Chiefs. They'll win by 7. They'll win by one possession, but it'll be a back of the Bucks will play well for a couple drives and then the Chiefs and then the second half the Chiefs will just take control over this game. Whether if they're down or tied, they'll come away with a win here. They'll find a way like they have all year.
Yeah, I think that the Chiefs are going to win this one, and I think that this will be really close. I just think that the Chiefs haven't found their capacity to kind of, I don't know, to put teams away just yet. And I think that, but I think that the main thing that we're missing out on is that the Bucks are missing Godwin and Mike Evans.
That
So
I did forget about that. Yeah.
I
So
I think that that's going to be really hard for them to overcome. Um, I think that Baker's still going to be able to be productive, but but the Chiefs defense I think is going to shine here and is really going to be able to put them away towards the end of the game. So I think maybe a 7 to 10 point win for the Chiefs, in my opinion.
yeah, I knew Godwin was out. I forgot about Evans. So
Yeah,
yeah, maybe this game could be a little more dominating by the Chiefs than I thought. But I still think the Bucks with their run game and they do have like Kate Otten had a big game last week.
yeah.
Look for Jalen McMillan, the rookie, and some other targets out there. They could keep this game close, but with Evans and Godwin out, it could get ugly as well.
I really don't think it will though until the very end. I think that
I think
they'll,
they have their respectable defense buck-wise. We
yeah,
talked about this last year how their defense flies under the radar.
yeah,
So I think it could be interesting.
yeah. All right, well, that's all for us today. I really appreciate you guys listening in on us. Sorry that we were able to we couldn't do last week. I had to bounce out of town, but it's no big deal. You guys
He
were
was too
fine.
embarrassed watching the Browns. He left the state.
Yeah, I had to get out of there, man. And then I was like, oh, I got to go watch the Bears. They're in a better position. And then then they sold the game to because I think it was like 29 wanted to talk smack to the DC fans. So I have bad luck wherever I go, so maybe I should just go ahead and get out of here.
Go to
But
Kansas City.
yeah, let's go. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Yep.
Peace.
See y'all. Peace.